Unsatisfaction. Two cold, merciless words, delivered with the icy detachment of the richest man alive. Words so sharp they cut deeper than any blade. Words that transformed what was once hailed as the fairy tale romance of the century into a scandal that will be whispered about for decades. Spoken not in anger, not in passion, but in that chilling, calculating tone Jeff Bezos has used for years to dismantle competitors, dissolve companies, and quietly dominate industries. For Lauren Sánchez, those words weren't just a rejection. They were the death sentence of her carefully constructed empire, the unraveling of every dream she had fought, schemed, and sacrificed to build. How? The world now asks in disbelief. Could the woman who dazzled paparazzi in Venice just weeks ago, who floated through her billion-dollar wedding in gowns worth more than most homes, who smiled as if she had conquered life itself, find herself cornered, stripped, and facing a $5 billion legal assault in the blink of an eye? The answer lies not in the glittering ceremonies or the diamond-studded parties, but in the shadows cast behind them, in the meticulous planning of a man who sees human relationships as contracts, marriages as mergers, and betrayals as business inefficiencies to be eliminated without hesitation. The truth, slowly seeping out through hushed conversations, leaked documents, and trembling confidants, is that this union was never about love. It was about power, positioning, and control, and Lauren, blinded by ambition, never realized she was merely a pawn in a billionaire's grander design. Insiders now reveal that Bezos prepared for this fall even before he uttered those public vows, even before the confetti fell, even before the world applauded what it thought was a triumph of love over scandal. He knew, they say, that Lauren's hunger for influence would one day clash with his obsession with control, and so he orchestrated not only a wedding, but a trap, one as intricate as any launch sequence at Blue Origin, as merciless as any hostile takeover on Wall Street. The lavish Venetian ceremony, which tabloids breathlessly called the wedding of the decade, was less a celebration and more a staged operation, each chandelier glowing not for romance but for record, each guest chosen not for friendship but for testimony, each camera not for memories but for evidence. And as Lauren basked in the spotlight, mistaking attention for acceptance, she unknowingly signed away her future in a prenuptial agreement so airtight it makes nuclear bunkers look fragile. Drafted by an army of elite attorneys, this document was no ordinary contract. It was a weapon, a financial guillotine disguised as legal formality, engineered with clauses so severe that even a stray Instagram caption could trigger catastrophic penalties. Imagine, if you dare, the cruelty of such precision. A single interview, a branding deal, a photo shoot undertaken without explicit permission could erase billions in entitlements, leaving nothing but ashes where once stood a princess of the elite. And yet Lauren signed it, pressured by timing, by spectacle, by the crushing weight of expectation, with the world's eyes on her, the magazine covers prepared, the celebrities en route to Venice. What choice did she have but to put pen to paper, sealing her own fate with an ink stroke that would later become her undoing? A seasoned attorney later whispered, "I've seen hostile mergers with fewer restrictions. That contract wasn't a prenup, it was a set of chains." Fast forward 30 days, and that very document, once touted as a safety net, detonated like a bomb in her hands. The so-called $5 billion boomerang, as lawyers now whisper in awe, has turned every piece of her public persona into ammunition against her. Every red carpet pose, every glossy interview, every carefully curated social media post, all weaponized by Bezos' team as proof that she had violated the rules of her own survival. Overnight, the glamorous bride became a fugitive, her assets frozen, her business partners served, her reputation reduced to a cautionary tale. Friends who once toasted champagne at her side now refuse to take her calls. Invitations vanish, deals collapse, doors slam shut. One Hollywood insider put it cruelly but truthfully. Yesterday, she was a billionaire's wife. Today, she is nobody. And still, what chills observers most is not the fall itself, but the methodical way it was executed. Sources close to the legal war describe it as a military-grade operation coordinated across multiple jurisdictions, designed to hit her from all sides at once, to leave her no time to breathe, no space to counterattack. By the time she understood what was happening, it was already over. Too late. Two words spoken with the same finality Bezos once used to end business ventures, but this time applied to a woman's life. Too late, not only for reconciliation, but for resistance, for escape, for hope. And so Lauren, the woman who once controlled her image with surgical precision, now finds herself erased, every trace of her power dissolved with brutal efficiency. She begged, insiders say. She called, she texted, she even tried to appear at his headquarters unannounced, only to be turned away by security guards who once bowed at her arrival. She pleaded not as the glamorous bride of Venice, but as a desperate woman stripped of her illusions, reduced to panic, her world crumbling at the speed of light. And yet, Bezos, the man who built an empire on patience and precision, did not flinch, did not soften, did not reconsider. He looked her in the eye, calm as ice, and delivered those words that carried not only the weight of an empire, but the certainty of execution. Too late. In those syllables lay not just the end of a marriage, but the dismantling of a persona, the burial of a brand, the annihilation of a dream. Because this was never a fairy tale, never a love story. It was a chess match, and Lauren had mistaken a king's courtesy for vulnerability, never realizing that every move she made had already been anticipated, countered, and neutralized. Bezos, like a grandmaster, let her play freely, allowed her to overextend, to make mistakes, to build a false sense of confidence, all while tightening the net around her, a net woven with legal brilliance, financial might, and psychological warfare. Some whisper that even the wedding itself was designed as bait, a gilded stage set to lull her into complacency, to make her believe she had already won. But Bezos was patient, waiting for the inevitable misstep, the moment she would seek more than he permitted, the moment her ambition would collide with his control. And when that moment came, he was ready, not with anger but with strategy, not with emotion but with execution. And now, as the world watches in morbid fascination, the truth emerges. This wasn't just a divorce. This was an execution by contract, a reputational assassination disguised as justice. And as Lauren fades into exile, chased not by paparazzi but by creditors, hunted not by gossip but by legal summonses, one terrifying question remains. If Jeff Bezos can orchestrate a wedding like a trap, a marriage like a merger, and a divorce like a demolition, what other secrets lie hidden in the vaults of his empire? What other lives has he calculated, mapped, and dismantled with the same chilling precision? Because behind Bezos's empire of rockets, cloud servers, and global commerce lies something darker, a philosophy that views human connection not as sacred, but as strategic, not as love, but as leverage, not as vulnerability, but as opportunity. Lauren Sánchez learned this the hard way, her downfall etched not in gossip columns, but in legal filings, her empire dismantled not by scandal alone, but by the ruthless efficiency of a man who plans everything 3 steps ahead, even the destruction of the woman who once thought she had won his heart. And as her story continues to unravel, one can't help but shiver at the possibility that this is only the beginning, that the documents yet unseen, the strategies yet unexposed, will reveal a reality even darker than we dare imagine. Because if Bezos can turn romance into litigation, vows into weapons, and dreams into liabilities, then what is left untouched by his reach? In the end, Lauren's fall is not merely a personal tragedy. It is a glimpse into the terrifying machinery of power itself, a machinery that crushes anything that dares to stand in its path, a machinery that wears the mask of love, only to reveal the steel teeth of control beneath. And as those 2 words, too late, echo across the ruins of her life, the world finally sees that in Bezos's universe, nothing is ever sacred and no one is ever safe.